Dunc Holder now. Eric Asher next at noon on Sports 1280 New Orleans.
And for someone else, but not for me.
I can listen to this whole song. The Monkees. You know this is the Monkees.
Yeah, I know this is the Monkees. Hey, hey, we're the Monkees. Everybody monkey around. Got it.
Yes.
Daydream Believer.
What Monkees song was originally written by Neil Diamond? Was it Daydream
Believer?
I think it was. You know, Neil Diamond wrote a lot of songs for a lot of people over the years. And I saw him at Superdome this year. That's right up my alley. You know he's like 75 years old?
Yeah, he's
Neil
old.
Diamond?
He's old. He's quite old.
And I was on the second floor of the Superdome where my tickets were in the upper second deck, I guess. And I was taking the elevator up because I was lazy. Had to wait on like 5 people in wheelchairs, and it wasn't because they were injured. It's because they were old. I think I was the youngest person in the Superdome for Neil Diamond. But it was a great show. Glad I saw him and had a chance to send him off because he's not touring anymore. I think that was his last tour. Moving on from my Neil Diamond talk, let's talk a little Saints action real quick about OTAs going on into next week, and then they finish up in the middle of June with minicamp, which really isn't a whole lot different than these OTAs, but that's voluntary. I mean, that's mandatory, I should say, the minicamp in June. This activity right now is voluntary. That's why Mark Ingram is not there. You see some players around the league have not shown up for some of these camps. And the one thing that struck me this year, more than ever, maybe I'm just noticing it more, a lot of players getting injured, suffering season-ending injuries. So that might be a reason why Mark Ingram's not there. He's going into a contract year. He needs to get paid. He wants to get paid. He's done a lot. He's become a multi-time Pro Bowler. His representation's probably saying, look, I'm looking around the league, seeing guys tear their ACLs, suffer Achilles injuries. Why do we want to show up and run the risk of you getting hurt going into a contract year? I'm sure that's what his agent is telling him, and I totally understand it. Mark Ingram knows the playbook. He doesn't need to develop chemistry with Drew Brees. Alvin Kamara respects him and knows he's the mentor. So I understand why he's not there. Obviously, it would be good if he were there, but sometimes the players have to look out for themselves because, look, this is a business. First and foremost, teams will tell you all along how preach loyalty to you and all this other crap.
Toe to Sean Payton.
As soon as you become expendable, you're gone, and there's nobody loyal to you. I will say this. The one thing I would say about the Saints, in their defense, Mickey Loomis and Sean Payton, more than most front offices, really do show some loyalties to a lot of the players. If you've been a good teammate, a good guy in the locker room, you've done all the right things, they will kind of give you that extra year on the end of your contract. It's amazing. They've done it over the years. Marcus Colson stands out to me. He was kind of done. He got basically one more year. They'll do that with some players that fit into that locker room. But if you're not a good soldier or not a good teammate, you're pretty much gone.
Well, I think it goes into the conversation of how important is OTAs really in the grand scheme of a team being able to find a way to bring some kind of cohesion for the upcoming season. And really, when you think about it, like you said, you're right. Mark Ingram has a huge year coming up ahead of him, and it's unfortunate, again, that 4 of those games are going to be lost due to suspension in such an important year for him contract-wise in his NFL future, not just with the Saints, but in the NFL. And we know Sean Payton has already made his thoughts clear about how he would like to have Mark Ingram in these OTAs, but he will have him back for minicamp, is all from what everybody expects. But it's one of those things for me, outside of maybe rookies and guys who finish the season injured, how important is OTAs, and how important are they to the development to your veteran guys who already know what to expect? You got to keep those guys healthy as it is. Is it really just for rookies? Is it really just for team cohesion? Do guys really need to be out there? Although at the same time, we talked about this yesterday, or at least Larry said this yesterday, and we weren't able to expound on it. But Tom Brady not being at OTAs, is that really a big deal?
No.
I mean, is that really a big deal that he's not at OTAs? I mean, knowing that he's played in the Super Bowl how many years now?
I think the only reason the veterans need to be there is, one, to show the coaching staff and the front office that they're in shape, they're staying in shape, and two is to work with the young guys to help them, basically to ease them along into the playbook, answer any questions that they have about the system. That's right now, all these rookies, their heads are swimming. They're getting a lot thrown at them. It's like a fire hose of information, and they're not going to get it all. They're not going to get it this early. This is the first or second installation, first or second time through the playbook, and it's so vast, especially the Saints. The Saints run a very complex, at least offensive system, and it's just too much to bring in one or two repetitions. So they'll get it again probably one more time before the end of camp. Then they'll break in July, and it'll all go away. You hope you retain some of it, and then you come back to training camp, and you get about two more installations. They'll go through it about 2 or 3 more times. So by the time the season starts, every player will have gone through every play 4 or 5 times. And then they'll streamline it and start tailoring it game plan-wise for a specific opponent. But that's how it works, and there's just a lot to learn. And these veterans know it all. They don't really need to be there. The greatest example of that, and old school Saints fans know, is Ricky Jackson when he had his car wreck, and I think it was Joe Johnson as well. Did not go through training camp, stepped into day one, and immediately was dominant right off the bat. These veteran players can get themselves ready. I don't think those guys even need to go to training camp if they're in shape, and most of these players keep themselves in shape year-round now.
Especially now, yeah.
Yeah, it's not like the old days where guys were working themselves into shape. So for the most part, unless you're a quarterback like Drew Brees who has to synchronize with his receivers and work so consistently with different parts of the offense, they need to be out there. But some of these veteran linemen, guys like when Zach Strief in the last years of his career, he didn't need to be out there practicing in the middle of 100-degree temperatures in the middle of August. It's brutal.
Because how much of that work, is also seemingly detrimental to guys that are a little bit older and a little bit further along in their 10 years, specifically because the wear and tear in your body of going through an NFL season, of going through 4 preseason games and then 16 regular season games and hoping that you can just make it to the playoffs, ends up resulting in the amount of actual physical toll it takes on your body, specifically for guys that are 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 years in at specific positions, like you said, at linemen, running back, wide receivers, linebackers, guys like that. I mean, this is a very unforgiving game, and it's very unforgiving for a lot of guys on their body. And it makes you just wonder, like, specifically, how many fans really care about OTAs outside of really the diehards that just want information 24/7, 365. But how many fans are really into, man, we need to know what's going to happen. We really need to see and hear from guys about who's working out today, who's running with the ones, who's running with the twos. Because I think we've seen a couple of guys across the NFL who have gone down with some injuries, whether it's knee injuries or some season enders.
Achilles tendons.
Achilles tendons, man. And I think that's where it becomes such a tough ask for guys who are going into contract years knowing full well that if they make one wrong step, if they get hit the wrong way once they put the pads on later on, if they get hit the wrong way, if they twist an ankle, twist a knee, they're never going to be able to get off to the type of season start they're going to want to. And that's why I feel like there isn't as much vitriol for Mark Ingram because of the suspension and not being at OTAs. So it's interesting to see how people are going to view that once we get to late July and he is back in camp and he is back doing all the work that he needs to be doing to get ready for the season, knowing full well that we're not going to see him until week 5.
Last week I did a spot on Fox 8 with our partners over there at Channel 8 and was asked by Juan Kincaid what young player I would be interested in watching during this offseason. And Juan kind of had me on the spot there, and I blanked out for a second. I mentioned a couple of young guys, but the guy I really want to watch is David Onyemata. I've been told by some Saints officials that that's a guy that they think is ready to break out. He was obviously a very raw prospect when he came in a few years ago, And there's some people in the building that thinks he might end up being a better long-term NFL player than Sheldon Rankins, who I know they're very high on as well. Rankins, of course, came in as a first-round draft pick, but Onyemata, very raw, came out of Canada and has really been coming on under Ryan Nielsen. So that's a guy I want to watch. Keep your eye on David Onyemata this offseason, see how they're utilizing him in that really good, young, talented defensive line. All right, that's a wrap.
Who you got tonight? Who you got tonight?
Oh, I got the Warriors. I don't know if they'll cover that 12.5-point spread.
No.
I don't think they will, but I think they will overwhelm them in the Oracle. But we'll see, and we'll talk about it tomorrow. Larry will be back in the saddle tomorrow, along with Clyde and I and Dave, and we have a lineup of guests. Tomorrow we got Willie Fritz coming in from Tulane, head football coach. He's going to visit with us, and Brody Miller will call in from Corvallis, Oregon, to give us a preview of the Corvallis Regional with LSU baseball. That's Dunc Holder. It's a wrap. Sports 1280, NOLA.com, the iHeartRadio app. Have a great day.
My mama said, hey, son, travel where you will and grow to be a man and sing what must be sung.